Hey guys, it's Bella. Welcome back to my channel. So today is going to be a little bit different. It's not going to be a makeup tutorial or slime challenge. Today is going to be a little bit of a chit chat on just my life in the past 8-9 months so far. It's something that I want to put out there because, some people might be, going through the same thing or not understand what they're going through because they don't have anybody to relate to. So I just wanted to put it out there. I don't know what else to say. I guess I should start with last September. Last September, my parents, my stepdad, and my mom, they decided that we're officially going to separate. So my mom and my dad have already been separated, which, that happened when I was like 3 years old. So, I had peace with it. But, after my mom and my dad separated, she got with my stepdad a couple years later, and they've been together almost 12 years. 10 to 12 years. I'm not really exactly sure, but I've been living in the same house for 10 years. So it was weird to leave, definitely, and it took a while for me to actually process it. But once it really hit that they were separating, at this time, David and I finally got together. He's been, obsessed with me for like 2 years. So I finally decided to give him a chance, and it was probably one of the best decisions of my life. He's awesome. But when my parents decided to separate, when it finally hit me, I just woke up one night and and I went to the bathroom and I went back to bed, and before I fell asleep, I had, it felt like the Exorcist movie. Like, I had a seizure that was it lasted 2 minutes, alright, and I was completely aware the whole time. I felt like, my back was arching, everything that was going on felt like the Exorcist movie. And I just, as soon as it stopped, I started bawling. I ran down to my mom's room and I told her about what happened, and I was still crying, and she had me sleep with her for the rest of the night, but she couldn't bring me to the hospital because my mom takes nighttime medicine to help her sleep, and once she takes it, she's not allowed to drive until, the next morning, and this was probably 12 o'clock at night. And so she took me to, the next day I started to have seizures again, but they were a lot smaller, and we noticed that they occurred with loud noises or me being overwhelmed or being touched or anything to do with my senses at all. So typically anything that would overload my senses. Which, being in a house with a ton of people, it happens quite frequently. So we went to the doctors, and I had to have several tests done to make sure that I didn't have a tumor or, and they thought it was occipital seizures, would have to do with my eyes, because whenever the doctor would test my eyes with the flashlight, I'd have to follow the flashlight, or they'd look at my eyes, or I'd have to follow their finger, and I'd just start seizing. right there. I couldn't do it. So they named it occipital seizures, which was not correct. And, you know, by this time I'm having like 8 a day. All right. They pulled me out of school. I ended up being out of school for 3 months. And then they continued to happen. And then, so they brought me to the hospital again after I went to the neurologist. And the neurologist said, this is not occipital seizures. Let's get some tests done. And so I had to go on EEG for overnight. So this was the second time I had an EEG, but this time it was a 24-hour period. For those of you who don't know what that is, that's when they just glue some wires to your head, and you have to be hooked up to like finger monitors and like all this stuff to basically test every part of your body, and then they try to make you have a seizure. So they'll put like strobe lights on or overload your senses or something like that to make you have a seizure, so they get the feeling of what's going on in your body or in your brain while it's happening. And so I did that, and they ruled out that it was psychogenic non-epileptic seizures. So I had the acute version, which lasts for less than 6 months. Now, I was almost 16, and so finally when I reached my 16th birthday, I went out to dinner with my grandparents and my parents and David, and on the way home, David just, grabbed my hand, put his arm around me, the usual, and I just started seizing. For some reason, my body couldn't take being touched at all. I started seizing. I couldn't stop. He had to stop touching me, and when nobody knew what to do, so they kept saying Bella, 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 and they didn't realize that the more that they said my name while I was seizing, the more I would seize, because my senses were just so overloaded. And so at one point I started seizing so bad that my mom pulled over twice. The second time she pulled over, I started seizing so bad that I went into like fetal position, and I could not move. I couldn't move a single limb, a muscle, nothing. And anytime they tried to touch me to sit me back up, I'd seize more. So finally they're like, okay, we're gonna sit you there, we're almost home, keep talking to us. And so I kept talking to them for a while, and then as I kept having more seizures, and then I stopped, and they thought I fell asleep because I wasn't responding to them. But I could not speak, I could not move, all I could do was blink. And I was lucky if I could swallow. It was awful. I thought I was gonna die, and they thought I was sleeping. They were talking about how I was sleeping right in front of me, and I couldn't speak or move to say, no, I'm not. And so finally when we got home, my mom flipped me over, and I just kept bug-eyeing her. I couldn't answer. She kept wanting me to respond, asking me questions. I couldn't ask her. I couldn't answer her. I kept and so I started seizing until I got on my back, because David was now out of the car. And so I was laying down. She could see my eyes. I'm looking at her, crying. Tears are just falling from my face. All I can do is blink. And she's saying, Bella, Bella. And so whenever she was asking me a question, I'd blink twice for no and once for yes. And David caught on, and then he told my mom, and my mom caught on, and right then she called the hospital, or called 911, and an ambulance was there dragging me out of my car and into the ambulance, and I just started hyperventilating. They had to put me on oxygen, put an IV in, and since I'm always really dehydrated, they couldn't find most of my veins, so they had to keep poking me and poking me and poking me. But it was very nice. I knew the man who was in the ambulance with me. He was very kind and, understanding and funny. And he would, make jokes that I wanted to laugh at. But anytime that I tried laughing, all I could do was, and, I couldn't move a body part at all. So, I'm trying to laugh and I'm going, that's all I could do. my mouth wouldn't move, my mouth wouldn't work. So it's basically just like air coming out of my mouth. That's all that I could do. And like, and I started crying once I realized that, and hyperventilating even more. And I forgot, like, I kept looking around. I had to pee so bad, and I was like, I'm not gonna pee my pants, but I can't tell anybody that I can pee. So I finally got to the hospital. It felt like forever, but my mom told me, I was like, in my head I was saying, oh my god, why aren't they, like, turn your sirens on, why aren't you going fast? And so I talked to my mom about it when I finally got my voice back, which was later on, and she told me that they were like zooming, they were doing like 90 miles an hour. And I was like, that's not what it felt like. It felt like it took years, because we went to Syracuse, to my neurologist. I think that's where we went. Golisano. Yeah. So they put me in the bed, and my sister walks in, she's crying, and she holds my hand, and like finally I can move my toes. Like my toes and my eyes were the only things that I could move. And so after I think 4 hours, I finally got feeling in my hands, and I could move my fingers, and I grabbed onto my sister's hand, and so the doctor, my mom had to go move her car, and so she's like, try making Bella talk. So my sister asked me makeup questions, believe it or not. I have a video on one of my Instagrams, but she asked me what pomade was, and I'm so used to calling it dip brow that like I didn't even realize. She goes, what's the P word that you put on your eyebrows? I said, what? Like, and she's like, pomade? And I was like, oh, okay. And it took me a while. Like, I kept stuttering and, you know, trying to say it, and I couldn't. All I could do, and I kept like having to repeat it. She had to teach me how to completely talk. Like, I didn't know how to talk again. It was as if, you know, it was just, she had to teach me how to talk. The doctors had to get me up and teach me how to walk again. Like, I thought, you know, I was laying in that bed and not being able to move or talk, and I thought I was gonna die. And I'm looking at my mom, and I'm looking at my sister, and Jayla FaceTime David, and I'm looking at all of them, and I'm thinking, this is it. And I don't know if any of you have ever, you know, had one of those moments where you're looking at your family and you feel like you're about to say goodbye to everything and everyone. It is the most scary feeling. And, you know, I was not ready to die. I'm looking at everybody. I'm like, I don't want to leave anybody. Like, this is going to hurt them so much. And, you know, this is it. I'm never going to have another memory again. This is it. And it was just like, so I just embraced it, sitting with them, and I kept trying and trying and trying, and I could only blow air out of my mouth. And so finally, I finally got like hope, because I could move my fingers. And so I started like trying to talk, and I sounded like an idiot, but I didn't care. All I cared about was trying to get back to normal, so I could, you know, like feel like I could still live, you know. And so I finally got to be able to do that and move. And it just, I mean, there was nothing they could do for me. They couldn't give me medicine. They couldn't, like, there was nothing that could fix it. It was all neurological. Like, my brain was, so some people have fight, flight, or stay still. Or fight, flight, or something. But I like stay still. And when my body gets anxious or overwhelmed, I shut down. And that's what my body did. My brain shut down, and it decided that to save myself from whatever felt, you know, like was hurting me, I could not move, couldn't speak, couldn't do anything. That was my brain's way of protecting me. And like, it's amazing what your brain can do and how it can control everything you have. And it was, so since that day I only had 3 other seizures, and I can finally get my permit, hopefully have a sweet 16, because that happened on my birthday, like when I ended up in the hospital. Like, that was my birthday. I was so excited for that day. I was like, yes, my sweet 16 this weekend, I'm gonna get my permit. And they're like, no, you have to wait 6 months. So I waited 6 months for my last seizure. Went into the neurologist. They're like, we're really sorry, but you have to wait another 6 months. We thought it was 6 months, and it's actually a year. So now I have to wait until December to get my permit. And it's so hard seeing everybody that, you know, even though they're months younger than me, like, getting their permit and driving. And, you know, it's so hard to see that, because that was the one thing that I wanted. You know, I didn't care if I got, you know, birthday presents. I didn't care if I got anything. All I wanted was my permit. You know, I wanted to drive. I wanted to be able to do things on my own. And, you know, if I got my permit on my birthday, I would have my license right now, like my regular license, and I'd be able to drive to school. I already had a car. I have a car sitting in my driveway that I can't use. And, like, that's... And then my mom told me that I couldn't have my sweet 16 because there was going to be too many people and I'd end up in the hospital again. And I understood where she was coming from, but that hurt me too. Like, permit, sweet 16, that's all I wanted. You know, it's all I wanted since I was 12. And I couldn't have it. But, you know, I couldn't help that. My mom couldn't help that. Nobody could. But, you know, and while I was home, I was doing my schoolwork, like everything I could do, and David would come over and he'd teach me things, and, like, I mean, he was much older than me, so he did things a couple years before that I'm doing, and, so he tried his best, and I got a lot of work in, but even when I went back to school after 3 months, I felt like nobody even noticed that I was gone. And I mean, my friends said that they did and everything, but, like, I felt like, you know, nobody really cared, which really hurt. I mean, I guess, you know, they may have, but to me, like, I felt like nobody did, you know, and that hurt even more. It's like, I went through all of this, and I realize now that I really don't have friends, like, friends that I want to have. And so that was really hard, and my grades were all 18s, 13s, 20s, and I'm an honor roll student, so that was really hard for me to see, and that was overwhelming in itself. But by the end of the year, I got all my grades in from every single marking period that I missed, and continued on to the marking period that I was on. And now, my entire school year, since they had to put it in as, like, not exempt, but like a pause, kinda, so I could still get my work in and get the grade that I deserve for it, but they still had to put my grades in, like, into the system, but I had a chance to redeem, you know. So at the end of the year, every single marking period, every single grade, above 85s, 90s, 100s, everything, back on honor roll. And I was so proud of myself. You know, there's always hope for that. Like, as long as you get down to work and you do it, then you're fine. I mean, I went from 13s, 18s, 20s to 86, 96, 93, 100, 98, 99. Like, it's insane what you can do if you actually put your mind to it. And I put my mind to going to therapy to work through anxiety and PTSD, because my seizures were also triggered from PTSD. Like, if I was touched excuse me, if I was touched or anything, then my brain locked down automatically because it went to PTSD mode. Like, so I worked on going to therapy, you know, working on anxiety, PTSD, all that stuff. I got on a medication, which my insurance actually wouldn't cover, so I actually couldn't get on it, and I ended up being okay without it, but my insurance just wouldn't cover it, and so I had no opportunity to get on that. And you know, my parents are still going through the divorce. It's a long process. I now have 3 jobs, which I am working my butt off at, and not letting myself get overwhelmed, not letting myself get triggered, so I can make money. I can make, like, me having that many jobs is like me saying, yeah, so what? You don't have your permit. You didn't have your Sweet 16. You missed all that school. Whatever. You're making a life. Like, you can buy your own things. You can do your own things. And you're working hard, and you can still do something. You're not dead. Use it. Like, use your life. Use your ability. Like, make money so you can go hang out with people. Like, go do things that your family, like, do things for your family that they can't do, you know? Like, it's just, it's kind of like I want to repay my family for also, like, being there for me too, like, if I do anything for them, and especially David, you know? And it's kind of like a see you later to, you know, all the stress that I had. Like, I'm doing all this and I'm not stressed. Like, look at your past self. Like, you've progressed. And it just feels good to say. And, you know, David and I are good, and we weren't good for a little while during this year just because I would get so stressed, and I said, David, like, how are we supposed to be together if I can't let you hold my hand, put your arm around me, like, kiss me, you know, even, like, talk to me a whole ton. Like, sometimes even when, like, anybody would have a conversation with me, my brain would just be like, okay, this is enough talking, shut down. And how was I supposed to have a relationship with that? It still worked out anyway, and he stayed by my side the entire time, which I thank God for him. Like, I don't know what I would do without him, my mom, my sisters. Like, I don't know what I would do. So I'm very thankful to have them in my life. And, you know, it's kind of a message out there to everybody, like, don't waste your life, and don't treat your family like crap, you know? Everybody's gonna die one day, whether it's when you want to have it done or whether it's a surprise. Why leave your house on bad terms? Because you never know when it's gonna happen. Why let yourself be open to regrets? You know, like, just treat everybody with respect. Go down the hallway and compliment people just because it's the good thing to do. Go down the hallway and, you know, let everybody know that they're extraordinary and that you appreciate them and that they mean something to somebody. You know, it's so much harder to be mean than it is to be nice. Yes, forgiveness is hard, but you wouldn't need to forgive anybody if you didn't take it all to heart and say things that, you know, you may regret as well, and, you know, progress a fight that didn't need to be a fight. Like, just treat everyone, you know, it's the golden rule. Everybody says it. Treat everybody how you want to be treated, but there are very few people that actually follow it. So why not be one of those few people? Why not be one of those few people that are above the expectation of respected? Like, I can't even tell you, like, I used to have so many problems with everybody because I did not treat anybody with respect. I was not kind. And, you know, finally when I hit, like, high school or something, maybe a little bit lower. Like I started to have more friends because I was more accepting, I was more forgiving, I was kinder, I didn't start fights, I didn't do any of those things, and I felt so much happier with myself. Like I didn't feel so much self-loathing and depressed and anxious. I mean, obviously I still had those things, but that's just because I'm a teenager. Like, but what, why waste your life being a jerk? Why not be somebody that other people want to talk to, other people want to be, not because you're popular, not because you dress nice, not because, you know, you're good at makeup or anything. Be, you know, be that person that people want to be friends with just because you're kind and just because you're so accepting and forgiving that that's what inspires them. Why do you have to, like, why do people have to, you know, I understand if you're struggling and stuff, but that entire time that I was struggling, I never once treated someone with disrespect or, you know, told that anybody off or was rude to anyone just because I was having a hard time. It's not that hard to be kind. And if you do say something that's disrespectful, or if you do say something that could have hurt somebody's feelings, why not just say, I'm sorry, that came out wrong? Even if you aren't sorry at that moment, why put yourself in that situation where you can regret it the next day? You know, it's hard. It's not, this isn't gonna connect with everybody, because not everybody is gonna think, oh yeah, you're right. Not everybody is gonna care. Even some people are gonna be like, she doesn't know what she's talking about. She is just, I don't know, anything that you guys can say. It doesn't really matter because it doesn't really affect me. But for the people who are gonna listen and the people who do understand, you know, I respect that. Like, that's awesome. And you guys are gonna be the people that change the world. All right? You're gonna change yourself, you're gonna change other people, you're gonna change the world. All right? And it doesn't matter what anybody else says. And if your friends are picking on somebody, why join in? Even if you think it's funny, or you think the other person, you know, finds it funny as well, it's not. It just makes you like a dirt. Like, you look like you treat people like dirt. And then you are gonna get treated like dirt. And, you know, why can't like, do you want to get shoved? Do you want to get pushed into a locker? Like, I don't understand that at all. Why do you think that's funny? Anyway, it doesn't really, not everybody's gonna listen to it. And people who do that stuff are gonna think, oh, it's funny. Like, she doesn't understand. She's just, you know, she's too tense. But whatever. That's fine. But I just want to let everybody know out there who is the one getting bullied, who, you know, who are the ones who are dealing with things that they feel like they can't talk to anybody else about, or anything, you know, even if you're having a great day and just want to talk to somebody, or bad day, good day, you know, neutral day, I'm available to talk. You can message me on my Instagram, which is makeupfinsta.b, or Bella, BELLA _Barry, BARRY 13, and like, just message me. But I'm always gonna be there to talk, you know. So just feel free, and hopefully, like, the people who got to the end of this video, like, hurrah. Like, sorry I'm so annoying. But thank you. And thank you guys, you know, for watching and listening. And even if you hated it, still made it here. So, alright, that's done for my rant. I just want to let you guys know that it does get better. It does. I'm so much happier. I'm not having seizures. I'm gonna get my permit in a couple months. And you know, everything turned out. So, good luck to anybody who is dealing with, you know, stuff that they think they can't get through, because you can. It's never the end. Don't convince yourself that it is.